here today to take you back to the life and times and troubles of a man named William Shakespeare. You know, that English guy, the one who wrote heaps of poems and plays. I'm sure you know a few. Romeo and Juliet? No, not Romeo and Juliet. Not the one with Leonardo DiCaprio. What about King Lear, Macbeth, Hamlet? To be or not to be? Although there are plenty of Shakespeare poems and plays, you might ask, why do we need to study the work of William Shakespeare? You might also ask, why is it important and how is it relevant? Although they were written a long time ago, the poems, plays and sonnets of William Shakespeare include many issues and themes that are still relevant today, like love, destiny, gender, politics, friendship and death. A lot of the phrases and words we use today come from Shakespeare's work. Also, once you have figured out how to read Shakespeare, you'll be able to understand how to read a lot of other texts. Shakespeare is difficult to read, but once you've got the hang of it, you'll feel much better about comprehending other texts. I think you'll be able to see why Shakespeare is such an important figure when you understand a little bit more about who he is. Take a seat, put your feet up, and listen to me for a while as I shed some light on who Mr. Shakespeare really was. Once upon a time in a little town called Stratford-upon-Avon, all the way in England, a man named William Shakespeare was born on April 23rd, 1564. He was the son of John Shakespeare, a leather tradesman, and Mary Arden. William was the third of their children and the only one that lived to be an adult, after the rest had died from the plague. In Shakespeare's day, a lot of you may not have still been alive because some kids died when they were very young. At the age of 18, he married a woman named Anne Hathaway. No, not that Anne Hathaway, another Anne Hathaway, who was pregnant with their first daughter at the time of their marriage. William got bored of living with Anne and their 3 children and left for a life in London in 1589. While they never divorced, he continued to have affairs with many women, and some might even say with men as well. Alright, so you've heard a little bit about the man we know as William Shakespeare. Up the back, are you listening? The next few things I'm going to tell you are pretty important. Shakespeare preferred to spend his time writing. He wrote his first poem called Venus and Adonis in 1593. By 1599 he had written 15 plays. Even though Shakespeare was very popular, this wasn't always for good reason. Shakespeare was quite a rebel in his day, and sort of like what we know as South Park or Family Guy, always going that one step further to make a comment about society. Shakespeare wrote during a period called the Middle Ages, during both the Elizabethan period and the Renaissance. In his plays, William liked to make fun of the aristocracy and the clergy, or all the richer people. This is quite ironic because the only people who could afford to see his plays were the wealthy aristocrats. So, Shakespeare liked to make fun of people who watched his work the most, but going to theatre was one of the only ways people could distract themselves from the misery, sickness and poverty of their time. The Renaissance period was a time where people spoke out with different views and ideas, and Shakespeare was considered quite radical. This was also a time of other great inventions that we still use today. I'm sure you've all seen a microscope, calculator, lead pencil, spectacles, and even a flushing toilet. We will be sure to look closer at Shakespeare's context at another time, because it is important to understand the influence of what was happening in the world on his plays and writing. Before I get to the part about when Shakespeare died, there's just one other thing I want to tell you. Shakespeare's plays were performed at the Globe Theatre, of which he was a co-owner. If any of you have been to London or plan on going there one day, you can see the theatre and can even still watch plays there. The theatre was called the Globe because Shakespeare believed it looked out into the rest of the world. If you were one of the poorer people down the front who had to stand and watch the play, you could even look up into the sky because there was no roof. In the Middle Ages, women were not allowed to act on the stage. No, not at all. So, male actors or boys were made to dress up as women. So really, the actors playing Romeo had to kiss Juliet, who was really a man dressed in drag. So did William and Anne Hathaway live happily ever after, I hear you ask? Shakespeare went back to Stratford-upon-Avon to live out the remainder of his days with Anne Hathaway. At his death, a whopping 37 of his plays had been written, not including countless sonnets and poems. Shakespeare died on his birthday in 1616 at the young age of 52. It's a sad way of spending a birthday, don't you think? But at least he even wrote a message on his own tombstone. Freaky. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have learned a few reasons why it's interesting to study Shakespeare.